nobody can make $100 million or whatever it is playing poker. He's just, poker's kind of
he sucks,
the way he says he makes his money, but he's really gotten it from the, trust funds, and you didn't take it.
I gave it all back, so.
Really?
Yeah. I gave it to my brother.
You're lying, and I know you're lying.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Trend Boss. Today we're going to be talking about how Dan Bilzerian got furious about Ignite fraud allegations. Make sure you stay to the end so you don't miss out on a major response from Dan Bilzerian regarding the Ignite fraud. You'll be absolutely shocked. Ignite, the company. Dan Bilzerian founded the company Ignite. The company specializes in CBD oils, but also sells water bottles, vodka, and electronic cigarettes. They even started dabbling with clothing. The company itself was founded on the idea of being a premium CBD brand. That idea was envisioned by Dan himself to reflect his own lavish lifestyle. Dan's idea of a good company involves a lot of parties and expensive products. This company reported a loss of $50 million in 2019. That loss started a flurry of fraud reports after the details were released to the public. Looking at their website, you can find the key players in the business, the top dog obviously being Bilzerian. One person he tries not to publicly announce as part of the company's brainstorming team is his father. Yep, someone who is a convicted felon and is known to commit multiple acts of fraud has made his way into a huge and well-known public company. He isn't even legally allowed to be part of the company. Now, let's see just how much trouble Ignite has gotten themselves into. Who is Dan Bilzerian? Dan Bilzerian is known to be a poker player / entrepreneur. He's also a trust fund kid who is the son of famous fraudster Paul Bilzerian. You may have heard of Dan, but it might be for all the wrong reasons. He has millions of followers on Instagram, where he posts all about his luxurious and highly expensive lifestyle. You'll see expensive wines, models in bikinis, island getaways, yachts, and more. Dan is in no way subtle. When he parties, he makes sure to go all out and spend as much as he can. One downfall to all of this is that he takes this attitude and brings it into business. He has a company called Ignite, which specializes in CBD oils, and as you will find out later in this video, they got in a lot of trouble for overspending the Bilzerian way. Claims of fraud with Ignite. After announcing that Ignite lost $50 million in 2019 alone, they got into quite a bit of trouble. That is a huge loss. How could a company lose that much money? Well, the answer is simply because Ignite was irresponsible. They did make a decent amount of money through their products, but what they spent on leisure and recreational activities was too much for them to make a profit. How exactly were they spending the company's money? Well, Bilzerian loved to party, and each Ignite party had tons of expensive alcohol, models, and luxury houses. These parties could easily run millions of dollars in costs. Alongside that, some of Bilzerian's guns, stacks of money, and even models boasted the Ignite logo, so that must mean he was using company money to fuel his hedonistic lifestyle. One major issue that came into the spotlight recently was the firing of Ignite's vice president. It was stated by Bilzerian that he was incompetent. Once fired, he released a statement to the public giving the real reason for his release from the company. He stated that Bilzerian was upset when he wouldn't approve of the extreme budgets Ignite had. Some expenses called for items such as a $15,000 ping pong table and a $40,000 rock climbing wall. It was also found that Ignite had been partially paying for some of Bilzerian's personal expenses, such as yacht rentals and trips to London. He even used the money from the company to buy laundry detergent. It soon became obvious that the company's spending was out of control. Additionally, a claim surfaced that stated that Paul Bilzerian, Dan's father, was helping make decisions for the company in meetings. All of these claims and public statements helped put Ignite into a bad light. Dan Bilzerian's response. Dan Bilzerian obviously did not take these fraud allegations lightly. He took to Twitter to say that Uber has never had a profitable month. Let's take a look at the tweet. He tweeted, "Uber is worth $80 billion. It has never had a profitable month since it started and lost over $5 billion in one quarter last year." Someone responded to this tweet saying he hopes Ignite doesn't use shareholders' money to rent a $200,000 a month mansion. This user claims that that would be very bad money management. Bilzerian had to respond, and he said, "I know 200,000 is probably a lot to a peasant like you, but I flipped a quarter with a buddy for 6 million. So to recap, he compared his business loss to a huge company like Uber, then went on to flaunt his wealth once challenged. Eric Newcomer in Bloomberg had a response to this comparison. He said, "It's a routine cost for newly public companies, though Uber is much larger due to the company's size, and investors are likely to forgive it as a one-off. It was unfair for Dan Bilzerian to compare his company Ignite with a company like Uber, yet he did it to cover up his fault in the Ignite fraud scandal. He could have handled it a little better, yet the response was quite fitting for a character like him. The comparison is uncalled for as well, since Uber has yet to be caught spending company money on unnecessary and personal events. Ignite failed to make a decent profit because of its spending habit, which could have been avoided. They could have earned through their products if they were a little more careful with their money." expenditure claims of Ignite. Ignite has been said to make some shallow purchases, and many of them have big, unimaginable price tags. A former Procter & Gamble executive and previous Ignite vice president claimed that Bilzerian had expenses that included a $130, $340 Bahamian photo shoot. These expenses don't make sense because they aren't useful to the company. They may help with the marketing of the brand, yet there are far cheaper ways to do that. Many believe the spendings are for Dan Bilzerian's own leisure, and he just uses the company as an excuse to go out and have parties and photo shoots all the time. There was also an incident involving the Paycheck Protection Program. It was a governmental aid that Dan made the former vice president write down as income when it clearly wasn't. Dan is also known to spend a lot of money on guns, and some of these guns have the Ignite logo on it, and they are bought with company money. Would that explain the excessive loss the company experienced in 2019? Former employees have even spoken out about the spending issue. An anonymous employee stated, Ignite pays for everything, models, events, yachts. Dan would just have it wrapped with the Ignite logo, and all of a sudden it was the Ignite expense, and he would send the bill. Pools, trampolines, his personal expenses that had nothing to do with the business. That statement makes it clear that Bilzerian doesn't have a clear standing on the company's priorities. Dan loves to live a lavish life, and he can't help but bring that into Ignite's business. That is definitely not the way to run a business, and it is a reason his company is not doing well. With all of these expenditure claims, it will be hard to take the company seriously and invest in when your money will most likely be going to parties. Much of Ignite's earnings are through shares that are sold, loans and investors. That is a lot of opportunity to lose once you are given it. More issues with Ignite. So now we know that Ignite isn't making much profit. Dan Bilzerian held high hopes for the company, yet they failed to properly deliver. After all the controversy surrounding the company, one of their major distributors, Canmart, cut ties with This distributor was going to help Ignite in the Canadian market, but since the fraud allegations, this is no longer a possibility. Another issue the company is struggling with is leadership. This is obvious in the way it's run. Dan is the face of the company, yet they've changed leaders multiple times. And none of this was to their advantage. John Schaefer was recently appointed as the Chief Operating Officer. He was previously Vice President of MedMen, another cannabis-related company. He currently holds the leadership position of the company, but that says a lot about him since 2019 was a bad year for Ignite. Some have even claimed that Dan Bilzerian is just a puppet, being pulled by his father, Paul Bilzerian. The fraudster has committed crimes such as parking stock in someone else's name, not making timely disclosures, and misstating sources of his funds. These acts have landed him 13 months behind bars. He is not allowed to run a public company, yet he may be helping Dan run Ignite. If that is the case, then Ignite is truly built upon fraud. And with that, we just see how a company can be running to the ground if not properly taken care of.
Psychological things.
Yeah.
So how did you make your money then?
Playing poker.
You made it all playing poker?
Yeah.
Wow, that is insane.
It
what
is.
did you do for a living before you played poker?
I mean, I was in the military for 4 years, and when I got out, got honorable discharge, and I had,
I'm not. I'm reading your eyes. The eyes can't lie.
While you are here, go ahead and click on one of these two videos on your screen. See you there.